Thank you, Pastor Cholik. Let's see. Okay, can you all hear me if I'm speaking here? Is that coming across? Okay. Louder would help. Do you mind if let's see. Just try to move it up a little. Okay, well, maybe I'll just have to talk louder. Good morning. It is a truly honor and a pleasure, a privilege to be here with you this morning. I know that you are here because something inside you has been activated. Your heart, your emotions, your psyche is just telling you that this is something you need to be doing. There are people in this country that need your help, and you are willing to reach out and make that difference. Dr. Peter Scare, professor and chairman of, and I have to get this right, exegetical theology at Concordia Theological Seminary in Fort Wayne, wrote many years ago, "When we look at the Lutheran support for the pro-life movement, how far from the truth would it be to say that we are speaking of a case of faith without works?" In convention after convention, the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod passes pro-life resolutions by large majorities, verging on unanimity. On paper, we are a tiger. Yet speaking from personal experience and listening to others, I can say that pro-life groups across the nation often find themselves frustrated with us. They know our pro-life stance, but they do not see us on the front lines at the rallies or the care centers. Over the years, I have attended numerous LCMS churches, but seldom have I heard the life issue from the pulpit or in Bible studies. Now, John the Baptist leaped in his mother's womb when he heard Mary's voice. I have to admit, my heart leaped for joy when I read those words, because I thought, yes, we need to have more Lutherans involved in the civil process, in the way our whole country operates. Now, my husband was a delegate, and he is here, by the way. Thank you for coming, Damon. My husband was a delegate to a district convention here in Houston back in 2010, and he was all excited because the body adopted a resolution opposing embryonic stem cell research, and it passed by 97%. And he was just thrilled. Me, being this great pro-lifer, wanted to know who those 3% were that didn't vote for it. Never did find them. But paper tiger, maybe at one point Lutherans were. But I am thrilled to see that there's been a huge change over the past several years. Lutherans are engaging in their communities, making a difference. Pastors are speaking from the pulpit. We're realizing that we have to do more than just pray. In Romans 13:1 we read, "Let every person be subject to the governing authorities, for there is no authority except from God, and those that exist have been instituted by God." The system of government instituted by God for us was, as later described by Abraham Lincoln, of the people, by the people, for the people. We have the wonderful ability to be involved in our own governance. When our founding fathers were creating this wonderful new country, John Adams wrote, "It has been the will of heaven that we should be thrown into existence at a period when the greatest philosophers and lawgivers of antiquity would have wished to live, a period when a coincidence of circumstances without example has afforded to 13 colonies at once an opportunity of beginning government anew from the foundation and building as they choose. How few of the human race have ever had an opportunity of choosing a system of government for themselves and their children. How few have ever had anything more of choice in government than in climate. We were blessed to be placed in a country that is a democratic republic. Our governing authority is not a dictator, nor a monarch on the throne because he or she was born into the right family. We can and must be involved in our government and in civic affairs because our system of government was instituted by God for us, and He expects us to be good citizens. Now, we have a system of government that allows for a regular, peaceful process to take place as we choose our leaders through a democratic system, through the elections. We have the ability to assemble, to organize, to petition our government for a redress of grievances. Consider what happens in so many countries. One person is in charge. Someone else decides they want to be in charge. So they put together an army and they march into the capital city, and maybe they will, take out the old leader and someone else comes in. Or what we see happening in the Middle East for many years, happening right now. People are trying to rebel. They want change. We don't know what's going to happen over in Iran right now. Is the government going to succeed, or are the people going to finally get some kind of relief? As John Adams noted, many people around the world have as much influence on their government as they do on the weather. If we do not preserve this government, if we do not participate in the process, we will lose it. Lutherans talk about the kingdom of the right hand, God's kingdom, and the kingdom of the left hand, the world in which we live. It would be easy to ignore the kingdom of the left. Government is bad. All of our leaders are crooks. I'm just waiting for the good Lord to take me home to heaven. Well, if that's our attitude, that's why government is bad and why some of our leaders are crooks. John Locke said, "All that is necessary for the triumph of evil is that good men do nothing." Plato said, "The penalty good men pay for indifference to public affairs is to be ruled by evil men." Ignoring the kingdom of this world is not an option. The right hand and the left hand are connected by one heart and one brain. We cannot accept abortion with our left hand and then be pro-life with our right. We cannot be apathetic when it comes to the world around us. Now, I was honored to be able to speak at a district convention several years ago for our church body. After I finished, one gentleman came up to me afterwards and said that when it came to abortion, his family lived by the Joshua principle with a slight twist. He said, "As for me and my house, we will not get an abortion. We will not have an abortion, but we're not going to tell anyone else what to do." And he said, "You're making me rethink that position." And I thought, praise God. We do need to be speaking up. We do need to be telling others that abortion is not the option, it is not the solution. How do we do that? We need to have the courage to speak up for those who cannot speak for themselves, and we need to be involved in our God-instituted government. Now, our government operates on 3 levels, and I know you probably know all this, but I'm going to go through some basics. We have 3 levels: federal, state, and local governments. We have the responsibility, the duty as good citizens to be watchful of and involved in all of them. The executive branch is run by the president. It includes 15 cabinet-level departments: the Department of State, the Department of War, Department of Health and Human Services. You've heard them all. It also covers more than 400 other agencies: NASA, Social Security, Bureau of Labor Statistics, the National Gallery of Art, Indian Health Services, more than 400 other agencies. That all comes under the umbrella of the president, the executive branch, and we get to vote for who that leader is. We can campaign for who that leader will be. The legislative branch is our Congress, those serving in the U.S. House of Representatives and the U.S. Senate. They pass bills. For a bill to become a law, they have to get the necessary votes from both chambers, and the president has to sign it. If he vetoes the bill, the Senate and House chambers can vote to override the veto, but they need 2/3 vote, and that rarely happens, that a veto is overridden. The judicial branch is made up to balance the other 2. We have a constitution and many laws passed by Congress, so it is the job of judges to make sure that those documents and laws are properly interpreted. Our federal court system has 3 levels: district courts, appellate courts, and the Supreme Court. Judges are nominated by the president and confirmed by the Senate. If Congress enacts a law that some person, some entity, some organization doesn't like, if they have standing because the law directly impacts them, they can challenge the law and ask a judge to rule. If the judge goes against what they want, they can appeal to the appellate courts. If the appellate courts, and all these district courts are spread out all over the country, in every state, if the appellate courts would turn you down, you could appeal to the Supreme Court, but out of the thousands of decisions that the courts are issuing every year, there's a handful, maybe less than 100, that the Supreme Court is going to hear. So most decisions are done at that lower level. I find it amazing to think of our system of government with the balances between the legislative branch and the president, then you've got the judges there trying to say you can't do this or you need to do it a different way. I'm amazed at the wisdom and the thoughtfulness and the effort that went into forming our government 250 years ago. When you think back to John Adams and Thomas Jefferson, brilliant people who came up with this system that 250 years later is still working, still in effect. Now, our state governments operate in much the same way, but because there's 50 of them, they all have something, a little different, whether their governors can serve as long as they want or they're term limited, how long the terms are when you have an election. In each state, some judges are appointed, some are elected. Again, being good citizens of the kingdom of the left hand, we need to be involved in all of those elections, putting honorable men and women into positions of authority, even down to our local governments. Mayors, city councilors, school board members, county commissioners or county supervisors, in some places the sheriff and the judges. All these places, these positions are important because these are the people that make decisions for and about us. Your mayor may eventually end up running for Congress getting elected to Congress. Your school board member may move on to become a state legislator. A local judge may in a few years end up on a federal court bench. We need to be electing good men and women in all of these positions because they impact our everyday lives. Once you get them elected, many of them, especially the ones that are going into Congress or the state legislatures, they're drafting bills, and they're passing those bills, again, that are impacting us. And I'm going to use Texas Right to Life as an example just because we're in Texas and we are affiliated. I know the organization well. They're doing a great job. But during a campaign season, Texas Right to Life is going to ask candidates their positions on issues. That information is going to be available on their website. If you have signed up to receive their emails, they'll probably send that information out to your area. That's the kind of information that you can use to share with people in your church. Do you know where your candidates stand on the issues that are important to us? Where do they stand on issues of life? Several national groups, including mine, National Right to Life, are involved in politics, and we put out information about the federal candidates and the presidential race. We're going to survey those candidates and, again, make that information available. Share that information with people and use it as a talking point to encourage them to get involved. Maybe you want to get more involved yourself on a personal level. Get to know your legislators. When candidates are running for office, go to their campaign events. Let them see your face. Let them get to know you. And you can ask them where they stand on life issues, and then tell them, make sure that they know where you stand. Ask them, to speak up publicly. If they do, then send them a note and say, heard what you said. Thank you for being bold in your pro-life convictions. Quite frankly, candidates want to be liked. And if they aren't seeing the support for a particular issue, even if it's firm to them, they're not going to talk about it. They're not going to do anything. So the candidates are going to be stronger when they know that you've got their back, that you're going to be their ally, their friend, working with them and for them and helping them. If you really want to get involved, consider running for office yourself. If you have $1 million in your bank account with nothing to do, decide you want to run for a state Senate seat or, get into Congress. Just wet your feet and get involved in the school board. Maybe try to become a city councilor or city committeeman. But we need to be in these positions. And if it's not us, then we need to be making sure that the people that are there are in agreement with us. After the elections are over, that's when the legislative process is going to start. Bills are going to be introduced, and they're going to have committee hearings, and they're going to allow people to come in and tell them why they should vote for or against a particular bill. If a bill is being heard, don't be afraid to step up. Take the mic and share your convictions. Tell them why you think this should be passed. The more educational, more informational, the more you can say, why it relates, why they should pass. Of course, that's going to be appreciated. But if you are afraid of public speaking and you don't think you know what to do, or you'd be afraid to say anything, they also take written testimony. You can submit letters, and it will be part of the official record. Just get involved and let legislators and elected officials know that you're there, that you're pro-life, and if they are too, you're going to be their ally. Now, over the last 50 years, we actually were pretty effective in working with those leaders and getting legislation passed. No, we could not stop all abortions prior to the Dobbs decision, which overturned Roe v. Wade. But we had a lot of great pieces of legislation that were passed. They were making a difference. They were saving lives, but they were also educational tools. The first biggest one that passed, of course, was the Hyde Amendment in Congress back in 1976. Henry Hyde was a freshman member of Congress, came in and said, our federal tax dollars should not be paying for abortions. Democrats controlled the House at that time, but enough of them, even though they were pro-abortion, said, I agree with you. Even if abortion should be legal, taxpayers shouldn't be paying for it. So they passed the Hyde Amendment, which now we are in the 50th year of our federal government not paying for abortions through the Medicaid program. That was a great success. Informed, and almost 3 million, it's like 2.6 million babies are alive through various research as to what would have happened if they had been paying for these abortions. So more than 2 million babies are alive because our tax dollars were not paying for abortions in the federal Medicaid program. But informed consent, making sure that women knew that they had information before they went through with the process. Parental involvement, trying to tell people, look, parents should be involved in this decision. They shouldn't be told or find out later that their granddaughter was killed, or their grandson, it may have been, but they had the right to be involved in that process. Then we started getting more descriptive. The Born Alive Abortion Survivors Protection Act. If a baby survived the abortion, you couldn't just put it off onto a shelf in a closet and close the door and let the baby cry until he dies. You had to provide medical support. Well, can you imagine people hearing that debate? What are you talking about? Babies survive an abortion? That gets the wheels turning. The Pain Capable Unborn Child Protection Act. Once that baby has developed to the point where he or she can feel pain, you can't do the abortion. Again, what are you talking about? Unborn babies feel pain? It gets them thinking. Dismemberment abortions. You cannot kill the baby by tearing off the arms and the limbs from the main body and then decapitating the baby. It's dismemberment. They do that. These bills actually did save lives, but they were also fantastic educational pieces to wake up people to the horror that was happening in our country. These laws worked. They were in effect. Now, Dobbs has certainly changed everything. Many states like Texas have great pro-life laws protecting babies. But it's very different now because most of these bills, the abortions, of course, were happening in so-called brick and mortar buildings. Planned Parenthood facility or a local abortionist set up, put a shingle out and was killing the babies in his office. That's very different now because 2/3 of all abortions are being done with the abortion pill. I'm going to give you just a little history of that pill. Back in, maybe sometime in the early 60s, 70s, there was a French manufacturer, Roussel Uclof, and they came up with a pill that would end the pregnancy, basically by destroying the progesterone in the uterus. There was a national boycott initiated before my time, but proud to say from National Right to Life, we initiated a boycott saying Roussel Uclof, a French company, cannot bring this pill into the United States. And we kept it out of the country for several years because RU had other drugs that they wanted to sell in the country, and we were able to keep them all out, saying, no, our people are not going to buy your drugs as long as you're promoting abortion. They finally handed the patent, instead of just stopping it, they handed the patent off to the Population Council, which conducted trials and then kept pushing to bring the pill here. In 2000, just as in the final months of Bill Clinton's presidential term, the Food and Drug Administration did approve the use of RU-486 in the United States. The pill itself is mifepristone, but that's a generic name like ketchup or aspirin. You might hear Mifeprex, the official name. But they talk about medication abortions because it sounds harmless. And they say that the abortion pill is as easy and safe as taking Tylenol. Don't believe it, that's not true, and we need to make sure that women know it's not true. Now, when you do the two-drug process, the first set of pills that you take is the mifepristone. What it does is dry up the progesterone in the uterus, and taking away the nourishment, the baby basically starves to death. That developing embryo, that new life, doesn't have the progesterone needed, and the life just kind of fades away. If you take the second drug, misoprostol, a day or two later, it's going to induce powerful cramping, severe bleeding, but the purpose of that is to expel that dead baby, that embryo. And I say embryo, but they're now it's more fully formed in the way it's being used now. But because of the risks associated with this process, when the Food and Drug Administration approved bringing it into the country, they had very tight rules as to how it could be administered. You know, the woman had to go visit with the doctor. The doctor had to make sure that it wasn't an ectopic pregnancy because she could die. The pills don't affect the developing baby outside the uterus, which is what the ectopic pregnancy is. But over the years, the Obama and Biden administrations greatly reduced all those restrictions. Woman didn't have to meet with the doctor for a physical exam. He could mail her the pills. She didn't have to return for a checkup to make sure that the baby had died, that the remains of the baby were not still in her uterus, which would cause sepsis and eventual death. The prescription didn't have to come from a doctor. I mean, they just took away pretty much all of the rules. But one of the reasons that we were really pushing for a physical in-person exam, that the woman had to see the doctor, is because 1% to 2% of all pregnancies are ectopic pregnancies. That baby is developing outside the uterus. And as the baby grows, that's where the woman's life is greatly endangered. And if that is not detected, which it isn't because now the doctor doesn't see her, he's just sending pills in the mail, that certainly could result in her death. Abortion pills are dangerous physically and psychologically. The women experience enormous pain and intense cramping, bleeding that may last for weeks, passing of large blood clots, nonstop vomiting, and much more. We hear stories of women, and it's heartbreaking when you read some of them, that they experienced their dead baby floating in the toilet or ending up on the floor of her shower because she's taking these pills, she's cramping, and the baby is being expelled. One woman wrote that she had had both the surgical abortion, the old-fashioned kind, and the chemical abortion, and she said the chemical abortion is much, much harder, more difficult, both psychologically, physically, and it's more traumatic. Now, we are told that the abortion pills are safe. No complications have been reported to the Food and Drug Administration. Do you know why? When the FDA under President Obama loosened their restrictions, they also decided that the complications didn't have to be reported, only deaths. So 36 women in this country have died using the abortion pill, but we don't know what other complications necessarily have been occurring because the FDA doesn't require that information to be reported. But studies, even from the abortion industry, show that the chemical abortions are 4 times more likely to send a woman to the emergency room than a surgical abortion. One of their studies determined that the pills were 95% effective, but more than 36% of the women in that study didn't finish the study. They didn't come back for the final, how did it turn out, what happened? So I'm wondering, why wouldn't more than a third of the women who took the study and they agreed to be part of the study didn't return? Why? And if you've got more than a third of the participants not replying, how can we take that study seriously? Now, during COVID, the United Kingdom, like the United States, allowed abortion pills to be mailed into homes. That was their impetus, that women shouldn't be coming to these facilities because of COVID. They're going to get sick, so let's just send the pills to them. The UK National Health Service reported a 64% increase in ambulance calls related to complications from do-it-yourself home abortions. Research in the UK also found that 6% of women using chemical abortions are subsequently treated in hospital for complications arising from an incomplete abortion, including retained products of conception, which means her body did not expel the remains of the baby, hemorrhage, and infection. Researchers from the University of Toronto found that more than 10% of chemical abortion patients visited the emergency room with some concern or complaint. We've got studies from Sweden. The countries that do socialized medicine, and it's very controlled, the government is in charge of everything, they keep track of all kinds of records. Those countries are coming out with a lot more serious complications and reporting than our medical community is. And they're just reporting it as fact. But the abortion industry tells women that if they go to the emergency room with the problem, tell them you're having a miscarriage. Now, that's not fair to the doctors or to the woman. They need to know why she is in the position she is in. So to lie to them is not helping her, and it doesn't help the doctors to provide the kind of care that she needs. But I'm not going to be surprised if in coming years we start seeing more increase in emergency room visits from women who are reporting probably a miscarriage. And yet if she dies, it's going to be reported as a problem for maternal mortality. It's not going to be related to the abortion. What is also dangerous in sending these pills through the mail to the women is, and it's not just to the women, is knowing who is getting them. We are hearing more and more heartbreaking stories of men ordering the pills online and giving them to the girlfriend or the wife because he doesn't want to be a father. The pills are slipped into her hot chocolate or her tea. She doesn't know it. She doesn't, and these are women who want the baby. So it's the father of the baby that is, and stories, I've seen a couple of them now, of men forcibly making the woman swallow the pills. That's got absolutely nothing to do with choice. If she wants the baby and the man is giving her these abortion pills because he was able to order them through the mail, that is not choice. And yet we have seen this happen in Massachusetts and Illinois and two here in Texas, at least, Louisiana. I mean, the stories are coming, as well as from Europe. That is not giving women choice when you are slipping her the pills anonymously. And that is a serious danger because you've got so-called doctors, or at least people in New York, California, several states, willing to absolutely send these pills to anybody, not knowing if it's a man or a woman, a father. We've got stories of women mothers ordering the pills so that they can give them unknowingly to their pregnant daughter because they don't think their daughter is ready to be a mom yet. This is just dangerous, and we have to be making sure that women know what's going on and helping them in any way that we can, to make sure that they're not going through that process. Something else that I think is just amazing, and hope you've heard of it. If not, we need to get that word out there more. Abortion pill reversal. Have you heard about it? Okay. It's an amazing, not an amazing treatment. It's been done for years. If a woman is having a miscarriage, she can go to the doctor and she'll say, I'm spotting, I think something's wrong. If he says that you're, kind of in those early stages and we can stop a miscarriage, what they're going to do is give her a basic dose or extra doses of progesterone. Strengthen the progesterone is what is, the nourishment that baby is feeding off of to grow. And they've been doing this for years. So we had some brilliant pro-life doctors that said, well, if the progesterone, by removing the progesterone, is starving that baby, and that's how the baby is dying with the abortion pills, let's reverse the process. So if a woman takes that first set of pills and the progesterone is maybe going to start drying up or whatever, but she start thinking, why did I do that? I let my family, my boyfriend, whatever, pressure me, but I don't want the abortion. If she acts quickly enough after taking that first set of pills, she can get to help, and the pregnancy centers around the country are stepping forward and doing amazing work. They can give her, working with medical professionals, give her those extra doses of progesterone to replenish what was taken away by using that abortion pill. And we have thousands, 8,000 known babies alive today because their moms changed their mind and went back and got some help, and they were able to reverse the abortion process. That's, to me, just brilliant. And yet it's so frustrating when you hear that the abortion industry is trying to stop abortion pill reversal. The American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists, or ACOG, calls it junk science. Although I am sure that every single one of these OBGYNs has at some point in their career prescribed progesterone to a woman, one of their patients, who was, in the early stages of a miscarriage. They have written that there is no scientific evidence or data to prove that medication abortion reversal is effective. Medication abortion reversal procedures could be dangerous. Now, why OBGYNs would be trying to tell women that something that is very natural and something that has been done for years is dangerous is just outlandish, and they should be ashamed of themselves. They are more interested in preserving abortion than in helping women. Now, unbelievably, Colorado and New York are both attacking pregnancy centers for helping women reverse the pregnancy to save the baby. Choice has become so outlandish that they will not accept anything less than abortion. One other thing I want to, are you giving me the 5 minutes? Oh, okay. Okay. Our opponents desperately want to convince the country that pro-life people want women in jail. If they get an abortion, they should be in jail. They should be penalized. If this is killing a human being, then they need to be in jail. The pro-life movement for more than 50 years has never taken that position. For one thing, not all these women know what they're getting into. Many of them have been pressured by boyfriends, husbands, parents, friends. Many of them don't know what they're going to do. I'm pregnant. I can't afford this baby. I don't know where I'm going to live. And they feel pressured that this abortion, for some reason, they think is going to be their best option. The pro-life movement has responded only with love and concern and support. That's why we have thousands of pregnancy centers around the country to help women get through a difficult time in their lives, help them to realize that ending the life of your child is not going to change your circumstances, but having that child is going to greatly enhance your joy in life. So in 2022, right before the Dobbs decision came down, National Right to Life and 76 other organizations around the country signed a very strong letter stating unequivocally that we oppose criminal penalties for women who get an abortion. And this letter was also signed by the president of the Lutheran Center for Religious Liberties. But the letter started, over the past 50 years, under the shadow of Roe v. Wade and Doe v. Bolton, abortion has taken the lives of more than 63 million unborn children. No, unfortunately, that's now 66 million. But the tragedy of abortion isn't limited to the unborn child who loses her life. The mother who aborts her child is also Roe's victim. She is the victim of a callous industry created to take lives, an industry that claims to provide for women's health, but denies the reality that far too many American women suffer devastating physical and psychological damage following abortion. Now, some women are going to object. I'm not a victim. I wanted to do this. But for 2 generations, they have been told that abortion is their best solution, their only solution. That's the only way they can achieve equality, is to get that abortion so they can go on and do their life as they want. The abortion industry has spent billions of dollars telling women that she needs to get an abortion if she wants a career or a life, happiness. In that way, every woman that walks away from an abortion is a victim. But as I said, we also have others that just feel like they have no choice. And I will tell you that if we try to push any kind of legislation that says women belong in jail for getting an abortion, their father, their mother, their brother, their sister is going to say you're crazy. And we will see even states like Texas flip solid blue. Nobody is going to want their mother in jail for supporting or encouraging an abortion. Nobody's going to want their sister or their daughter in jail. Just PR-wise, it is a losing proposition. But our job as pro-lifers is to reach out to women and say, that's not the solution, let us help you. And we have been doing that for 50 years, and we need to continue that, because there are too many women out there who are experiencing the joy of having that baby because pro-lifers were there to help. We do care about both mother and child. And again, I'm talking Texas because that's where we are. You've got some great laws, not just protecting those unborn children, but helping mothers. If a woman has a baby for, I'm not sure how far it goes into, but several months after the baby is born, I think maybe even up to a year, a county health nurse can, I mean, if she wants, it's not going to happen without her consent, but a county health nurse will come into her home for a visit and say, how are you doing? What kind of help do you need? Let me check to make sure that everything is okay with the baby. Are you doing okay after the pregnancy, after the birth? So your county health services are able to provide that kind of support to a woman in her home with a young child. If a college student is in college on a scholarship and she becomes pregnant, in many places, get rid of the baby if you want to keep that scholarship, because maybe it's a sports scholarship and you're not going to be able to dribble the ball if you're carrying a baby. But in Texas, if that happens, you're on a scholarship and you become pregnant, you can, if you want to, drop out of college and say, I am going to have this baby, take care of this baby. The state has said, when you're ready to come back to college, that scholarship is still there waiting for you. I mean, so this state has come up with some very creative and very helpful laws, ways to help women in difficult times. And that's what we're seeing that happen around the country. And quite frankly, I will say it's mostly the pro-life red states that are responding because they want to help women. The blue states are saying, we'll pay for your abortion. And that's the only help that she's going to get. But I'm very happy that several of the states are coming forward with these kinds of laws that really do make a difference. As you know, we are in a mission field. Do the people in your church know that abortion is wrong, or do you just assume that they know? Get some pro-life brochures and put them in the tract rack, in the church or on some shelves, so people can pick up some information and find out where, what to do, where to go. National Right to Life has an organization in almost all 50 states. Our Texas affiliate here, Texas Right to Life, be happy to help you get in touch with them if you want. You can't tell your members in a church which candidates to support, but you certainly can make them aware of where candidates stand on issues before they vote. Encourage your church members to get involved in politics. William Wilberforce was a member of the Parliament when in Great Britain when he became a Christian. He was going to give up his seat because he thought politics and religion don't mix. He didn't think being a politician was a good vocation for a Christian. Fortunately, friends prevailed on him to stay there, and he is given almost single-handed credit for first abolishing the slave trade in England and then abolishing slavery there altogether. Help the pregnancy centers so that they are able to continue the great, amazing work they do to help women through that difficult time. Now, I know we often make excuses for ourselves, and I've guilty of doing some of this myself. I don't have time. You know, it's a crazy, hectic world. There's too much going on, juggling jobs and families and other commitments. But everyone can find a few minutes to do something. Sign up to get, if not National Right to Life News, then other organizations. Make sure that you are on the mailing list of Lutherans for Life. And just get that information and forward it to a few friends. And just say, I thought this was interesting. You might want to read it. Buy a T-shirt with a pro-life message and wear it to the store so that people can see it. Put the Precious Feet lapel pin on your jacket or your shirt. And if someone says, what is that? That gives you a great opportunity to start talking about, these are the feet, the size of feet of a baby 10 weeks after conception. Isn't that amazing? And yet, many of them are being killed in our country. Carry the sonogram or some picture of your unborn child or grandchild and show it to everyone you meet. Look at my grandbaby, my grandson's going to be here in, 7 months, but look how beautiful he already is. Make people face that baby and make them realize what they're actually, what's actually happening. Sometimes we think, I'm afraid because I just don't know enough about the issue. Well, we can learn about those issues. There's all kinds of ways to do that. The internet is an amazing place. Now you have to be careful, not everything you read is true. You already know that. But get the information, and any question you have, just go to Google and say, what happens, in this case? And educate yourself so that you are able to talk to others about it. And for some, it's like, I'm too shy. I don't like talking to people. I am afraid that, I don't like encounters and they're going to start arguing back with me and I don't know how to respond. Post comments on your Facebook page or, do something. There's just so many ways that you can get that information out there. Life is too important to be put into a box or added to a list of other things to be addressed later. Life is too important to be put on the back burner, and life is too important for excuses. Now, our founding fathers knew that without life, we wouldn't need happiness or liberty. So let's promote life in every way that we can and work the way whatever we can to protect those innocent babies. Now, I have a quote that I found that I thought was quite amusing from J.M., I think it's Wiedenschilling. He did an article back in 1953, it published by Concordia, and it was "The Christian, a Citizen of Two Kingdoms." And this is just part of what he wrote, and I thought this was kind of amusing. As Christians, we should do everything in our power to promote the welfare of our country and to oppose all views and movements that would deprive us of the blessings which we enjoy as citizens of the United States. However, Lutherans have not always been as great a blessing to their country as they should have been. They may, in general, be decent and law-abiding citizens, but they are often not active enough in making their influence felt for the betterment of politics and civil life. Some church members are woefully ignorant of the functions and affairs of our government. Christians should strive to obtain a good knowledge of civics and politics in order to be able to serve their country better. Special courses are offered by schools and by the government. Good books are also obtainable. There is very little excuse for not being informed about civic matters. And I thought I can just almost kind of hear him preaching that, in a stern tone about how we need to be involved. But I also believe that he would be very happy to see what Lutherans are doing in the involvement that they are giving to our country and to our government to make sure that we are doing what we need to do to be good citizens and to bring more people into the pro-life movement and get them involved in our civic process as well. And just on a final note, I'm going to ask you to help National Right to Life in a small way. We have put forward a piece of model legislation called the Apple Act. It's the Abortion Pill Provider Liability and Education Act. And we've got 2 states that have introduced it. But it's model legislation from us that say women deserve full and honest information before taking the abortion pills. So that's the education part of it. Make sure that they get the information before taking, and this is especially for the abortion pills. But they also deserve legal protection when something goes wrong. So what we are trying to do is get states to start adopting laws that would say if you have provided the abortion pill and the woman had some problem, there was some complications, there was something that went wrong, she can come back and sue the provider. If something really does harmful, even death on her part, the family can come back and sue the provider. We're trying to go to the source. Someone sitting in New York should not be able to send pills into Texas or Missouri or North Dakota, whatever. So I would love to have you just talking about it, because I think it's a talking point that will educate people, and it's kind of a safe, I don't want to say it's a safe topic, but instead of talking about abortion, let's talk about, have you heard about that bill? And it's been introduced in Ohio and Washington State. Have you heard about that bill that would say if something goes wrong in an abortion, the woman can sue the abortion pill provider? And that immediately gets them thinking, what went wrong with the abortion? I thought it was safe. And of course, well, yeah, if something goes wrong, she should be able to sue. And then maybe the insurance companies are going to start perking up their ears thinking, well, wait a minute, why are we insuring this doctor, this person, if they're going to get sued every time something goes wrong? So we're hoping that this will make a difference and that we can use it as an educational tool for the public, but also get the abortionists afraid of actually providing those pills. I don't know if it's going to work, but please pray. And if you want to talk about that and just tell people, you know, there's that bill that if a woman is hurt, she could sue the provider. And I think most people would say that makes sense. We're a litigious society. People like to sue. So why not sue the provider when something goes wrong in the abortion process if there are complications? So anyway, if you would want to talk about that with your friends, your neighbors, whatever, I would appreciate it. And again, I'll be here for the rest of the afternoon, so I'd love to meet with you and talk with you if you have any questions or comments or suggestions, advice, whatever. Please let me know. Thank you so much.